So without further ado, we're going to go on to the next demo. And let me make sure that you all can see the screen. This is from Yale University. And I'm going to make it full screen and start the share. Okay. Do you all see that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Starting it now then.
Hi, everybody. We're here today to talk about Blacklight in the Yale University Library. So who are we and why are we here?
Hello, everybody. My name's Martin Lovell. I'm a principal full-stack engineer at Yale Library IT, and I've worked on the Quick Search and Find It Blacklight apps at Yale. I'm interested in new features and updates in Blacklight, solar configuration, and in how solar updates affect Blacklight, and customization best practices.
I'm Kaylee Sprague. I'm the technical team lead and senior systems librarian for integrated access in library IT. My experience, I'm a quick search discovery platform product owner. I've also worked on our digital collections applications that are Blacklight based. And what am I interested in today? Upgrade paths, tips and tricks for getting to the latest release, as well as discussing what the long-term vision is for Blacklight. We have 3 Blacklight applications in production right now. Quick Search, which is our Blacklight discovery interface. Digital Collections, which is based on the Samvera stack and contains our digital collections. And Media Collections, which is based on Avalon. We have included live links in this slide, so if you're interested in viewing the production interfaces, you can go ahead and see them for yourself.
Here's some information about the software stacks at Yale Library. We have various versions of Rails, Ruby, and Blacklight. You can see we have Blacklight 4, 5, and 6, and we also have different versions of Solar.
In the past couple of months, we've been involved in several new projects at Yale. First and foremost among those has been a number of COVID-19 emergency projects related to our Quick Search discovery interface, as we've tried to make more online material more easily available to our students and faculty as we really quickly pivoted to an online university. And we'll show you a demo of some of those projects in a few seconds. Our other major project that we've been working on recently has been a digital collections reboot. Yale hired DCE and Notch 8 to work with us on this project, and we are essentially completely re-implementing our digital collections infrastructure. So that's a really exciting project going on right now for us. We're also in the midst of an Avalon upgrade and have about completed our work on this project. We expect it to officially roll out about mid-May. We will be upgrading to Blacklight 6.20. And then finally, within the library, we're also getting ready to kick off a production project to implement GeoBlacklight in June of 2020. We stood up a proof of concept instance earlier last year. That was really successful. So we're looking forward to getting started with our production project. And then finally, at the university level, we are involved with the implementation of a new Lux discovery interface that's going to search across all of the museums, galleries, and libraries at Yale. So that's another exciting and very interesting project that we're looking forward to. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to show you a little QuickTime movie of some of the changes that we made in Quick Search recently for the COVID-19 emergency. Specifically, we added online material enhancements to Quick Search. We loaded 4.9 million HathiTrust records, and those included both public domain records and emergency temporary access records. As you can see, we added a location facet for the HathiTrust digital library and made other changes to add these records to the index. These were big changes. We had very little time to make decisions about them. We couldn't do user testing, a lot of the other prep that we would normally have done. We did extensive modification of the metadata that we harvested from HathiTrust in order to build these new features. We also engaged in some load testing very quickly again, just to make sure that we weren't going to have a response time hit. When we were done loading the records, we changed some things in the interface in order to make it easier for users to find them. We added a link to online results in the Books Plus bento, and then we added a large blue button in the results screen so that people could easily add and remove a filter to online materials. So these changes were very stressful. They were happening at a stressful time. They were coming down from above. They didn't really take into account our estimates of the required time. So a lot of us put in a lot of overtime. But the end result was a good one. We've received a lot of appreciative messages, especially for loading the HathiTrust records. And our next step is to move some of this work off of our laptops onto a production server, and then do some of post-production work like user studies, analytics, and gather feedback that we would normally have done in the beginning of the process. All right, so that's everything. Anyone have any comments or questions?
Okay, thank you, Kaylee and Martin. Please ask your questions in the Slack or the Zoom Q&A, but we'll wait till the end of all the demos before we go to answering them. Next up, we have Duke University Library. Okay, and I'm gonna start. Okay.
Hello, I'm Corey Lown from Duke University Libraries, where I'm an application development project lead. Duke University Libraries has been using Blacklight for at least 6 years on a number of platforms, and I'll just briefly give an overview of each of those platforms and some of the customizations we've made. The first is our books and media catalog. We share a Solr index with the rest of the university libraries in the Triangle Research Libraries Network that includes Duke, UNC, NC State, and NC Central. So from within our interface, you can easily search for and find material beyond Duke's collection that you can get quickly through interlibrary loan. We've made a number of changes to the user interface to make the look and feel look more like Duke University Libraries branded application. We've added on the homepage some ways to browse new material, including new authors, new material from Duke authors, new and noteworthy books, and new DVDs. We've also made a number of changes to the full record page. The most recent change we've made is to add links when the page loads to the emergency temporary access service from HathiTrust for material that we have temporary access to while the library is closed during the COVID-19 pandemic. These links are injected when the page loads, and it means that roughly 38% of our print collection is now available online via HathiTrust. The next platform I'm going to show is our digital repository. Most of the work that we've done recently has been to transition from using Fedora to using Valkyrie on the back end. But on the front end, the most significant changes we've made include landing pages for collections to allow easy browsing within that collection, as well as integration with our Finding Aid platform to display information from the Finding Aid and to link to the Finding Aid. We've integrated with a IIIF image server and OpenSeaDragon to provide in-browser pan and zoom of high-resolution images. And for audio and video items, we have made available an interactive transcript that allows you to jump to a particular spot in the recording, and the transcript will follow along with the recording. The next and final interface I'm going to show is something that's coming soon. It's in development and not publicly available, but it is for our finding aids. We're going to be using ArcLight built in Blacklight for finding aid discovery. And this is just a preview, but here's what the landing page looks like right now in development. We've made a number of changes to the user interface in ArcLight, including providing a left-hand navigation of the hierarchy of the finding aid, as you can see here. As well as integrations with our digital repository. So if there's a digital object available in the repository, it will display in line in the finding aid and provide a link to the digital collection. This is just a quick overview of some of the Blacklight based applications where we have worked on at Duke. I'm happy to answer questions. I'll be on Slack, and here's my email address on the screen. Feel free to contact me if you have questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Corey. Thanks for sharing that work. Please ask your questions on Slack. And I'm gonna go ahead and share the next video, which is gonna be from Temple. Oh, I have two things up at the same time. Where are they? Try that one more time. There we go.
Hi, I'm Chad Nelson from Temple University Libraries, and I'm really interested in hearing about what people are doing for solar performance and solar monitoring and things like that. That's kind of where my interest is right now. I will now pass it to Jennifer.
I am Jennifer Anton, one of the developers at Temple. I think I'm most interested in learning about some of the front-end changes coming up in Blacklight. David?
Hi, I'm David Kinzer. I'm also a developer at Temple. I am interested mostly in upcoming changes in Blacklight. And I'll pass it on to Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Ng. I'm also a developer here at Temple University Libraries, and I'm interested in learning about how people are doing search in new and creative ways. Chad?
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit briefly about a couple of the changes we've done in our Blacklight applications recently. The first one, David will talk about.
So one of the recent changes that we've done was to incorporate a new data coming from an active record into our solar record, not at ingest time, but at display time. Basically, what we do is at display time, we make a call to the active record. We grab a bunch of electronic notes, and then we check individual items that would require that may or may not have these notes, and add them from the active record. So that's basically it. If you are interested in learning about that, just hit me up. And I think I'll pass it back to Chad.
Thanks. Another big change we made recently was switching from standalone solar on 661 to solar cloud running solar 8. And so beyond the kind of configuration changes and that kind of stuff that you'd expect. We also made a big change in the way we release our solar collection configurations. Now we have each solar configuration in a separate repository that is versioned on its own. And when it's versioned, when a new release is cut, a CD process pushes that into Solar Cloud as a new config set, creates a new collection based on that config set, and then prepares us to allow to start indexing into it. So whereas we used to be really coupled quite tightly, our Solar config with our application code, now they're separate. And that's been, I think, a pretty big win for us. So I'll now pass it on to Jennifer.
One of the areas of improvement that we've been focusing on lately is performance. We recently completed a performance audit as a team and developed goals for some of our metrics, mostly based on our skylight data. We've made some changes with compressing our assets and changing some of our front-end code. One of the data points that really surprised us when we were conducting our audit was with the number of objects allocated per transaction. According to the documentation that we were following, they recommend that that be 75,000 or fewer. Our skylight shows that the catalog controller index action has nearly 500,000 objects allocated per transaction. So we're very interested in discovering more about why this number is so high and what we can do to improve it. If anyone else has already looked into this and knows the answer, we'd love to hear more about that.
All right. And so the last thing we're going to mention is from another application, one called FunCake, which is part of our work as the Pennsylvania Digital Hub for the DPLA. As part of that, we needed an OAI endpoint, and we integrated the Blacklight OAI provider, which is a first for us. We did some work to get it upgraded to work with Blacklight 7. So we did some of that, and then yeah, we've just integrated it as part of our process that both internally we harvest from it and DPLA harvests from it. And so that's been an interesting experience that we'd be happy to talk about. Okay, so that's all we have for stuff that we've been working on. Stephen's now going to do a quick demo of our main library search application. Stephen?
All right, so our library search is mostly accessed primarily through the main library website. We have a standard search bar here. Enter in a search term, and then we get a bento box version of the search results. Here we can, let's say, click on this book here, and we're taken down into the details of the book. Due to the lockdown, we cannot provide BookBot access. However, we do have access via the Hathi Trust down here. Amongst other things, that we can also search content specifically on the library website. So we have results here that are on library-specific websites with regards to Pearl S. Buck. And finally, if you want to find out library-specific information, you can do like staff searches or event searches, and those will come back under the website tab. Chad?
That's all we got. Thanks a lot, and looking forward to talking to all of you during the summit.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So I see that there have been some questions that have gone through Slack right now. If you'd like an immediate answer, I guess you could feel free to answer it in Slack. But if that doesn't get addressed at the end of all the sessions, we'll bring back the Temple team. So up next is Penn State. And here we go.
So hi, this is Donna Kutlu from Penn State Libraries, and I have Charlie Morris with me as well. We will be talking about our Blacklight catalog. Next slide, please. A little bit of a background. Our new catalog is powered by Blacklight, replacing our legacy catalog, the CAT, which is a paid Source Dynamics product. We began our preliminary work in summer 2018 and launched in summer 2019. The launched version is a beta version. It has all of our records, which is about 7.9 million records. We have book covers on there, and we have availability and ability to request hosts. Well, currently, it is linking to other systems, but our current work is actually right now is to replace that with our Ruby application for my account system. Next slide, please. So under the hood, we have Rails 5 with Ruby 2.5. We are on Blacklight 7.5 and Traject 3.1. And our Solar version is 7.4, and we're on Solar Cloud. We had worked with Symantec to set up our Solar Cloud, and we are also using their performance monitoring tool, but we will be moving to Datadog soon. We use Webpacker for all of our assets, and the Blacklight gems that we have on our catalog currently is we have advanced search, we have range limit, and of course Blacklight mark. We use past states VM hosting, and we have 3 Blacklight nodes for our application, which has a load balancer in front of it. And for our Solar, we have 3 Solar nodes and another load balancer in front of those as well. So the next slide will kind of show an idea how it looks like. And you can see that we have our indexer in between our ILS and like our Black Hat index. So we get our mark records from there and then get them indexed in using Traject here. Yes, that's all I have. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Charlie.
Thank you, Banu. So what we've been working on since the summer of 2019 when we launched as a beta is mostly dependency updates and small feature adds. Primarily what we've been working on, as Banu mentioned, is this My Account application, which will be the final piece to remove or replace, I should say, in the vended Circe product for the cat, the old legacy cat that has been around since I think 2001 or 2000 maybe. So we've been working on that, and hopefully when that's in place, we will launch for a no longer in beta in fall of 2020. We've also been working on something called dynamic sitemap generation because we launched in November. We launched this idea in like November. We were not letting robots in until then, until that time, and we're kind of looking at sitemap options for letting bots index the catalog, and we sort of landed on that one. But I won't go on to that more because I'll have a lightning talk about that tomorrow, I believe. More work that we'll be doing in the future. So officially launching the catalog, integrating our catalog with our Bento application. We have a Bento application that is separate, and right now it's pointing to summon Serial Solutions summon results, because that's another pot we have. We are also going to be making it the default or integrating it into our like homepage, library homepage search tab. So that'll be the launching features we're going to be adding. We're looking into the HathiTrust ETAs and importing those. Those talks are happening right now, and that might become a front burner project, sort of jumping the queue if it rises to that level. Not sure yet. We also have to work on course reserves integration, and then we want to do some browse stuff, browsing by author, browsing by call number, and browsing by subject. I would do a demo, but I think we're already getting close to 5 minutes here. If you want to take a look at it, it's at catalog.libraries.psu.edu, and you can poke around there in our GitHub repos as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Banu and Charlie. Next, I have a video from Thomas Schertz at the University of Cincinnati. Okay, let's do this. Full screen.
Hello, welcome to the University of Cincinnati's Blacklight Experience. Sean Crow and I, Thomas Schurz, will be attending the Virtual Blacklight Summit this year. We're relatively new to Blacklight. We have a Samvera instance of Blacklight running with our institutional repository. As our ecosystem grows here at the University of Cincinnati, we're looking to expand the idea of a centrally managed experience with a multiple presentation layer, present anywhere kind of experience that we're hoping Solar and Blacklight can provide to us. We don't have a lot to demo due to the fact that we're pretty much just a Samvera shop with a Hyrax instance running. You can check it out at scholar.uc.edu. So excited for this week. Looking forward to seeing everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Up next, we have Cornell University. Let me get that queued up.
Hello, this is the Cornell University submission for the Blacklight Virtual Summit for the institutional demo section. We're going to start out with the work that we've done for our catalog Blacklight and some of the work that we're doing with Spotlight. Melissa Wallace will be talking about that. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of the prototyping and work and explorations we've been doing as part of the LD4P2 grant at Cornell. So now I'm going to hand it off to Melissa.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Wallace and I'm a user interface designer at Cornell University Library. I work on several Blacklight installations, including our library catalog, digital collections, and Spotlight for exhibits. I just wanted to highlight some recent work in our catalog and Spotlight. For our library catalog, in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, about half our collection was made temporarily available online through our membership with HathiTrust. Electronic records were added to our catalog, and these records were boosted so that they show up prominently in search results. So this is just an example of a title I was thinking about reading, and I did a quick search for it and found that the first result is actually one of these electronic records that links out to HathiTrust. So that was nice to see. Other recent work within our catalog was to our single search bento interface. This is it right here, and this is an example search. One thing that we recently did was we created, migrated our search for articles in full text from Summon over to EBSCO Discovery Services as a precursor to our move from Voyager to Folio, which I think is happening next year. In addition, we launched a new bento box, which is this repositories box right here. And this searches within our institutional repositories, which includes eCommons, which is powered by DSpace, and several repositories hosted within Digital Commons. Lastly, we had a big upgrade from Solar 6 to 8, and at the same time moved our Solar to AWS. And things didn't really break, so that was considered largely successful. So over in our Spotlight installation, we have finally gotten more widespread buy-in from our library community, and the number of exhibits is growing. So this is super exciting for us. We have 14 published exhibits right now, and about 24 more under development. A big part of this initiative is that we're migrating many older exhibits that existed in various janky formats, such as 20-year-old static HTML sites to JavaScript heavy custom one-off exhibits and Drupal. So it's pretty exciting that we're really starting to commit to Spotlight after piloting it way back in 2016. And as part of this push, we're also doing some web accessibility work in an effort to make sure that all of these exhibits are compliant with WCAG 2.0 AA guidelines. And that's my brief and probably kind of boring update on Cornell's catalog and Spotlight.
Thank you, Melissa. We also wanted to acknowledge the library catalog team and the Spotlight team. I'm going to talk very briefly about the linked data for pathways implementation work we've been doing at Cornell. We've been looking at the discovery area of the grant. We've been looking at how to bring in linked data and other data sources to support more open-ended discovery for our users and provide more context. So here's an example of a knowledge panel that's bringing in contextual information from Wikidata for the author. Here's an example of bringing in Discogs information. You can see all the fields that are highlighted in blue that supplements the main record. We also looked at some browsing prototypes, including a call number browse, and bringing in information from the Open Syllabus API to show recommendations based on works that have been co-assigned with the one you're looking at. And we're also currently working on auto-suggest using information about pseudonyms, and see also information and variant labels from linked data sources. A big thank you to the Cornell team, and a special shout out to our collaborators. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to Melissa or me, Huda Khan. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Huda and Melissa. Up next, we have Princeton University Library with a video prepared by Christina Cortaria.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual Blacklight Summit at Princeton University. My name is Christina Cortaria, and I'm a Discovery Infrastructure Developer at Princeton University Library with a Digital Repositories and Discovery Services team under the supervision of Kate Lynch, Software Development Manager. I'm attending the Blacklight Summit along with my colleagues James Griffin, Digital Infrastructure Developer, Anna Hidley, Digital Infrastructure Developer, Francis Kayua, Developer Operations Engineer, Kim Lehman, Library IT Project Manager, and Mark Zaleski, Library Discovery and ILS Coordinator. Currently at Princeton, we host 8 Blacklight applications. The main online library catalog where users can search and browse our bibliographic material from Princeton and our partners, online content, collections, and much more. Maps Portal, a discovery platform for geospatial resources. Figgy, the main backend repository where we carry all the workflows to preserve our content and make it accessible to the rest of the world. Digital PUL for digital collections and online exhibitions at PUL. The Digital Chicken-Yara Library, the Digital Archive of Latin American and Caribbean Ephemera Repository, Data and Statistical Services, a data discovery platform, and Pulfalite, which is the new finding aids application and is still under development. In our infrastructure, we use Blacklight 7. We've upgraded to Solar 8 in production. Some applications still use Solar 7 in staging. We've upgraded to Ruby 2.6, and most of the applications run on Rails 5.2. Since the last Blacklight Summit at Duke in 2019, we've restored CJK queries and fixed Solar stability by upgrading to Solar 8. Biograms are now only enabled for Korean. We are processing the nodes field in the CJK. We improved the text CJK field with additional filters. We've updated the catalog to display links to other catalog records using the Other Editions field. Thanks to the migration of the numismatics database in Princeton's digital repository, Figgy, the entire Princeton University numismatic collection is now discoverable on the online catalog. In response to COVID-19, HathiTrust Digital Library has made over 5 million books from Princeton University Library's print collection available online for all Princeton students, faculty, and staff. Records that are accessible through HathiTrust will now read temporary digital access from HathiTrust. Since October 2019, we've completed 5 sprints on the development of Pulfalite, an ArcLight application, as the new finding aids to explore descriptions of our unique holdings at the Princeton University libraries, which include manuscripts, archival collections, images, ephemera, and much more. During the sprints, we hold daily meetings with 2 stakeholders that we identified as product owners. We've also updated our GeoBlacklight application to use the GeoBlacklight Sidecar Images gem for the thumbnail generation. This gem was built on work that was initially started in PullMap and continued by Eric Larson and the Big Ten GeoPortal. I would like to acknowledge the work of digital repositories and discovery services, enterprise and user services, operations, and desktop support. There were a lot of people that contributed to this work, and I'd like to thank everyone that participated. Lastly, I would like to thank Nikitas Tampakis for all of his time and efforts on the library catalog. Thank you for your participation and stay safe.
Thank you for that presentation, Christina, and thanks for your kind words. That's great work. We have 3 more demos to go. And just as a reminder for everyone who has presented in the past hour, we're making you panelists. So after we're done with these 3 presentations, you can answer some of the questions that have been asked throughout the playing of the videos. So next we have Harvard.
Hi, this is Claire DeMarco, Associate Director of Digital Strategies and Innovation for Harvard Library. And I'm here to share what products we have at Harvard Library that utilize Blacklight for the Blacklight Summit. So let me share my screen. All right, at Harvard, we have 3 products that utilize Blacklight. We have Harvard Digital Collections, Curiosity Digital Collections, which is our primary Spotlight instance, and Colonial North America, which is a customized Spotlight instance for this particular exhibit. All of these platforms offer search and discovery for the content that is stored in Harvard's digital repository, including images of handwritten manuscripts, images of text, audio, and video. Our primary Blacklight instance is Harvard Digital Collections, which includes over 6.2 million digital objects. And we launched this platform about a year ago. And since that time, we've had over 350,000 page views from over 20,000 unique visitors. Some of you have already seen me present on the 16-week work cycle that got version 1 off the ground. So right now, we are about halfway through our second 16-week work cycle to provide enhancements to the platform. I wanted to take this opportunity to walk you through some of the changes that we've made so far and give a preview of what's to come. This will also give you a small window into the way that we do our work as a team. So our first changes were to the search and filter experience. Our initial filter bar represented our library.harvard design system at the time that we were building out, and demonstrated only the metadata that we were capable of faceting on from our data source. So as a reminder, unlike a standard Blacklight install, our application replaces the Blacklight Solar with a call to our Library Cloud Item API. Library Cloud is our own metadata hub that pulls and normalizes metadata from our main catalog, our image catalog, our archival finding aid components, and our and metadata that we add to our digital preservation repository at the time of deposit. So we did, however, in building this, rely on several out-of-the-box elements of Blacklight as well as some plugins for the search display. So you'll notice the placement of the search terms and very familiar layout of the search results. We've continued to test and refine our UI for usability and accessibility, and we decided to reconsider some of the elements of the search experience, such as the search term placement. You can see now that our UI reflects an updated filtering experience with more specific faceting and changes to the search box and search term space up here. All of those changes and our other UI and accessibility enhancements are live on Harvard Digital Collections now. So feel free to explore. But next on deck, and what this slide references, is our next major enhancement still in this cycle. So building off of the Blacklight bookmarking feature, we want to allow users to create and maintain lists of items that are associated with their account. So we've gone through a series of sketches and wireframes and designs for the UI, and we're currently working with Library Technology Services at Harvard Library to stand up the technical architecture that will connect user accounts in Blacklight to sets in our library cloud database infrastructure. So I'm going to walk you through the design mocks to show the interaction of how this works. But this is an example of my sketch from our session and how it translates to a wireframe with really low fidelity design. We really want to focus on the user experience when we're doing our wireframing. But you'll see this reflected in the design. So from the search results page, a user will now see an outline of a star that will appear on hover when they hover over the thumbnail of an item. And then they can click on that item. It'll turn yellow, the star will turn yellow when they want to add it to a list. They could also add all the items from the search results page to a list at once. But here I'll show you what the interaction is like when you add one item. So a modal window would appear, and they would have the option to select an existing list or to actually add a new list at this point, and then they would add the item to that list. So lists will be something that a user can access and maintain from an updated My Account landing page, and that's what this page will look like. Our version of My Account is actually building off of the search history page that currently exists in Blacklight, but will give the user the opportunity to link to their lists, their saved searches, and to manage their account to do things like changing their password. So if a user clicks on My Lists, they'll see any lists that they've created, and when they hover over the list, they'll see this interaction. They'll also be able to edit the title of the list from this page. And then when they click into a list, they would see something that looks very familiar as to a search result, but this is actually all of the items in the list. And you can see that they are in the list by this yellow star. And if a user clicks the yellow star, they could delete it from the list. They can also, again, edit the name of the list, change the pagination, the layout. And then one of the things that we're most excited about is the ability to export these lists. We're anticipating right now that we'll be able to provide a JSON export of IIIF manifests, but there may be other export modes that we want to include, such as CSV or others. And all of these enhancements are scheduled for release at the end of June, as we're working on them right now. One of the things that we're hoping this export, the list creation and export, can support is targeted promotion to K-12 teachers and other educators, public libraries, et cetera, for creating open educational resources and primary source sets for teaching. And that gives a sense that this is part of a larger digital collections ecosystem, which includes, as I said, our Curiosity platform of our Spotlight exhibits, our Colonial North America exhibit, and also Google Arts and Culture as a potential front door for getting to some of this content. Our hope is that these things connect with one another, reach discrete audiences, and offer complementary features. I wanted to leave you with a couple of additional features we're hoping will be coming, some in part during this work cycle and some maybe a little bit afterwards, by showing you an item detail page design. So this looks very much like our item detail page right now. We are hoping that we'll be able to upgrade to Mirador 3 when version 1 of Mirador 3 is released, and we have some support to upgrade at Harvard. And we're also working on a pilot to add transcriptions, both from the page for handwritten transcriptions, also transcriptions of AV. And what we would do is add a link here to the item detail page that will allow someone to click over and access that transcript from a storage place, not utilizing any additional infrastructure as a pilot, but then hoping that down the line we'll be able to use IIIF annotations and other things for those transcripts. The last is that we have working in our QA system right now this idea of having more from your search. Right now, this would show a user who's coming from a search result 2 items prior to and 2 items after the search result that they're looking at right now. But we also want to explore what users expect in terms of related items or other items that they may see. I'm noticing now that there's one other enhancement that we've made that you can see on this page, which is the idea of hiding lengthy metadata fields behind a show more. And we've done that both for these pages, but also on the mobile view to condense those. So that's live now. You can go ahead and experiment with that if you like. So that's all I have for the few minutes that we have together. But if anyone wants more in-depth conversation or has comments or questions, you can email me. I appreciate the opportunity to present virtually at the summit, and I wish that I could see you all in person. Thanks so much.
Thank you for that, Clara. Some really, really nice user experience features and customizations that you showed there. Next, we have Columbia University. Oops, I almost left the meeting. That would not have been good. Okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm Stuart Marquis, a developer in the Library Systems Group at Columbia University. Columbia's been running Blacklight for a while now. We first released our Blacklight-based OPAC, Clio, in 2013, and since then, we've developed a number of services based on the Blacklight platform. We've got Clio, right here, our OPAC. We've got our GeoData service, which is based on Geo Blacklight. We've got our institutional repository, Academic Commons, again, standard Blacklight, and we've got our digital library collection. It's Blacklight with Blacklight used to hold our scanned images. I'm going to give a brief demo of Clio, since that's the app I'm most familiar with. In Clio, Clio's homepage is actually something we call Quick Search. And when you run a query in Quick Search, Clio will send your query terms off to a number of backend data sources. This is the GeoData that we saw, and Academic Commons, and this is Summon. And Clio will return the results and put them in these little boxes. The catalog is our standard Blacklight OPAC, and it's a pretty normal Blacklight interface. It's got a lot of small customizations, mostly at the interface level, all through it. There are 2 particular features which I'll talk about to try to be fast. One of them is authority variance, and the other one is our Hathi access. First, authority variance. So here is so here you have your record, and you go into your record, and you've got your bib, and you can see it in your mark view. Underneath the regular mark, we have a section for our authority variance. What we do is at index time, when the mark record is being added to Solr, we look up each of the subject terms in a separate authorities database to find the variants that we're interested in according to some criterion, and we add them here. So there might be authority variant, author variants, subject variants, etc. What this lets you do is it lets you search by, for instance, alternate spellings. Here's a search by Gaddafi, and here's a search for Gaddafi with a K, and they both return the same record set, even though each individual bib record may or may not have that spelling in it. Another example, besides different spellings, authority variants are useful for things like for terms where a patron might be searching for a common term, whereas a technical term used by Library of Congress subject headings they might not know that. So this first record is about myocardial infarction, And if you look in the MARC view, you don't see heart attack anywhere in the basic record. Patrons would miss this record, but due to the subject variance, they get a hit. So that's been helpful to increase discovery. I'm going to jump to the next thing that we do is Hathi access. With the libraries closed right now, online access is important. We're all talking about online access. For a while now, we've done this dynamic lookup. When a page is built, it'll use the standard keys, the OCLC or ISBN, to go off and see if there's Google Books available or HathiTrust availability. These come from the HathiTrust BIB API. It's a simple API where you just call a URL with an ID type. It can be OCLC, LCCN, and then it will return a block of JSON. And the JSON here has links to the page turner, and it tells you here whether you have rights to see it or not. US rights string limited means you don't. If it says full access, then you do. So here's an example of something with a lot of full view issues from the past. So this is retrieved dynamically, and that's been great for us. What's new now is that due to the coronavirus, Hathi has a new service. They're calling it their Emergency Temporary Access Service, ETAS. And in ETAS, this lets your library patrons access the online page turners for books which are still under copyright protection. The page turner links are discoverable using the same BIB API as before, but now you can get to the items which previously would say limited access. You can get to them through authenticated shibboleth access. You can check something out. You can see it's automatically checked out to you using the link we have. And so patrons have access to the full text of the work. You can't download the whole item, but you can use the online page turner to flip through it. Patrons can only access it you can only share it as many times simultaneously as you have holdings in your collection. So if you have two copies of the book that are locked up in a closed library, then 2 of your patrons can simultaneously read the book. So this ETAS has been great, and it's given us access to a lot of material. For Columbia, we've been able to add these ETAS links to about 1.7 million of our records, and that's made a huge difference to access. Whereas our search results used to be this sea of red X's, meaning no availability for all of our closed libraries, now we have access. So it's really helped, and that's it.
Thank you, Stuart, for that. We are now on the last one, which is a presentation from Johns Hopkins.
Hi, my name is Amanda Cornwell, and I'm a software engineer at Johns Hopkins Sheridan Libraries. First of all, I just want to say thanks to Princeton for hosting the Blacklight Summit. We're excited to be participating. Myself and Mark Cizik are going to be attending the summit. Mark is a library technologist. He's been with the library for over 25 years, and he's both a librarian and a software engineer. He currently works on the main library website, Omeka, Archive Space, and SpringShare, and he also does a lot of fun Raspberry Pi projects, both for work and at home. And I'm a new software engineer, or new to libraries. I joined Hopkins back in August, and I work on Blacklight, Geo Blacklight, and Folio, and I'm a code junkie a little bit. I love the whole stack, although I'm a little bit more focused on back-end development and lately really into DevOps. So I'm excited to be attending the summit. As many of you know, Catalyst is our main Blacklight open source discovery system, and it is tightly integrated with Umlaut SFX link resolver. So you'll see we've actually made that a little bit tighter of an integration with some of the presentation changes we've done for the COVID-19 response. And then from a DevOps perspective, everything is hosted on-prem and everything is managed with Ansible. So for Solar, for Traject and Catalyst, everything is done with Ansible, and the scripts have been working pretty well for all of that. And then our Catalyst implementation is a little bit behind. We're on Blacklight 5.15, Rails 4.2.10, and Solar 6. I am working on the Blacklight upgrade as I have time, and I kind of have a test version up to Rails 5 and Blacklight 6.14. I did realize when I got to Blacklight 6 that there were a couple of components that haven't really been upgraded, so I'm kind of curious to hear from the community on some of those components. I've listed some of them out, but the main one I'm interested in hearing about is our stack view component, because I actually really enjoy this component, but it looks like it hasn't really been used very much, or it hasn't been upgraded. And then what I mentioned earlier, with COVID-19, we kind of worked on a remote-only presentation for Catalyst. So we're really featuring electronic resources a bit more heavily than stack information. So that's been pretty interesting, and again, very custom with Umlaut and Find It. And then one of our new Blacklight projects is a GeoBlacklight implementation. This application is brand new, and we're kind of just at the sandbox stage and getting ready to test deployment into AWS. So for GeoBlacklight, we are going with the cloud, and we're going to be deploying with ECS, not Kubernetes, and all of the DevOps is going to be managed in Terraform. We also use Terraform for our Folio application, which we're using for some database electronic management. And then local development, we're really just kind of simulating the cloud containers in Docker Compose, and I found that works really well, and I'm going to demo that in a little bit. And then in terms of our interest for the summit, really just like to hear, upgrade advice from everybody, things we may be behind on that we don't know about, best practices on testing. We do have some Cucumber tests, but I'd like to kind of hear from people what everybody's doing, and I hope to sort of increase our testing coverage. And then also just containerization guidance. We're not looking on putting Blacklight in the cloud anytime soon, but we are doing GeoBlacklight, so I'd just like to hear if anybody has guidance in terms of Dockerizing GeoBlacklight or Blacklight. Okay, and I'll just show you a quick demo now. So I didn't want to leave anything to chance. Forgive me, I already ran Docker Compose up. I didn't want it to go down, but I do have my containers up here. So you can see I have a GeoBlacklight container, a Solar container, a database container, and then I also include AdMiner, which allows you to just, connect to your database and view it more easily within the Docker environment. And you can also look at some of the logs. Here's our database log, GeoBlacklight log, and Solar log. And then I'll just come over here and show you our application. So here we go. Here's our GeoBlacklight application, fully containerized. And we're actually working on our Terraform scripts and hope to get this out to AWS in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we can talk more in depth about this stuff during the summit. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Amanda. So I'll let Jane just mention if there are any unanswered questions to figure out how to arrange for that.
Thanks, Nikitas. I only saw one question that didn't get answered yet, and it's for Cornell. And it was, are the Cornell folks using AWS Solar Service or EC2 instances running solar? And Huda's going to check and find out about that.
Okay, so we are at 5 o'clock Eastern right now. So we got through all of them. We made up ground. Thank you so much for everyone who put the time to prepare these excellent demos. So we're officially done with the presentations for today. Tomorrow we're going to start at 11 a.m. Eastern with some more presentations and lightning talks. We then have an Ask Anything session and 2 breakouts, and then a 30-minute wrap up where we can discuss our next steps. So if anyone isn't zoomed out already, I'm going to paste a link in the Blacklight Summit in the Slack channel to join a separate Zoom to try to simulate the after conference happy hour socializing. But thank you for a wonderful first day, and we will see you tomorrow.